I don't know why I agreed to that last-minute trip. Maybe it was the stress at work, the breakup, or the gnawing loneliness that had been following me like a shadow all year. Whatever the reason, when my cousin Eamon texted, "Bro, 3-day lake camping. Phone's off. No signals. Just nature. You in?" I said yes. We drove 5 hours from the city into the Ghats, toward a place none of us had camped before, Lake Malvin, a dated tourist spot. Not on any map. It's just a large, glassy body of water surrounded by thick, forgotten forest. Friend Samir had found it through some cryptic online thread that mentioned undisturbed solitude and raw silence. Looking back, that was the first red flag. Anything that describes a place with phrases like raw silence is a warning in itself. We reached just before sunset. The lake was eerily calm to calm. Not a ripple, not a single bird flying overhead, not even the chirp of crickets. Quaint. It was like the whole place was holding its breath. We were city guys looking for peace, so we mistook deathly stillness for peace. The first night was uneventful. We set up our tents close to the shore, lit a fire, told stories, and laughed under the stars. But around 2 a.m., I woke up to this strange sensation. Like something was pulling at the base of my spine. I thought it was just a cramp, but when I opened my eyes, my tent's zipper was halfway open. I sat up fast. A cold draft rolled in from the lake, and on the water, I saw it dash ripples. It didn't make sense. There was no wind. The water had been glass all day, yet the ripples moved slowly, steadily, toward the shore. I zipped my tent shut, heart hammering, and tried to convince myself it was just a fish, or a log, or anything. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I didn't mention the ripples to the others. It felt silly. We spent the day hiking, fishing, cooking, at dinner, but as the sun dipped behind the trees, that heavy stillness returned, like a blanket too thick to breathe through. Samir brought up something weird after dinner. "Anyone else notice how the lake smells?" he said, sniffing the air. He was right. There was a faint metallic scent, like rusted iron, or blood. That night, I stayed up late near the fire, sipping warm beer. Amin and Samir had gone to sleep, their tents zipped tight. The moon hung low, painting the lake silver. That's when I saw her, a girl, standing waist deep in the water. At first, I thought it was a prank, Aman messing with me. But this girl was too still, too pale, her hair wet and clinging to her face. She wore something like a torn hospital gown. Her eyes were just black holes, no reflection, no light. I froze. She raised one arm and pointed straight at me. Then she sank, not like someone swimming under, but like she was being pulled down. No splash, no bubbles. I stumbled backward, tripping over a rock, scraping my elbow. I screamed for Aman, for Samir, but no one came out. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to the tents. They were both zipped up from the inside. I shook them awake, breathless, rambling about the girl in the lake. Of course, they didn't believe me. "You were drunk, man. Hallucinating," Amin said. "No. ***ing saw her," I hissed. She pointed at me. Smear looked shaken though. He hadn't seen the girl, but he said he'd heard splashing and whispers. That night, none of us slept. We decided to leave at first light, packed up our gear in silence. But the forest wasn't going to let us go so easy. As we made our way back through the woods, the trail we'd used was gone. We checked the compass. The GPS was dead. No signal. We circled back to the lake, hoping to retrace our steps. But the lake, ... It looked different. It's bigger, darker, like it had swallowed more of the land overnight. That's when Amon screamed. He stood near the shore, pale, trembling, staring into the water. I looked and saw dozens of hands under the surface gray, bloated, reaching upward from the deep. Eyes opened beneath the surface. The tastes, dozens of them, watching us, blinking, waiting. One of the hands reached out and grabbed Amon's ankle. He went down hard, screaming, trying to kick it off. I lunged and pulled at him. Samir joined in. He barely got him out, but his leg was torn up, like claws had raked across it. We didn't stop running after that. Hours, through the forest. No path. Just raw fear. We stumbled upon a road near dusk, flagged down a passing truck like lunatics. The driver didn't speak much, but when we said lake, Malvin, his face changed. He said, in broken Hindi, "No one goes there. Water is cursed. It eats memory, brings dead from bottom." Back in the city, we tried to act normal. Smear doesn't talk about it. Amon's leg healed, but he has night terrors now. Me. I moved to a high-rise far from any lakes, Tassa, but sometimes I wake up in the night, sheets soaked with sweat, spine aching like something's pulling me down, and every so often I hear water dripping, even when all the taps are off. It started as a reunion, just four of us: me, Arjun, Ravi, Zoya, and Natasha. We were all close in college, but life had pulled us in different directions. When Ravi suggested a camping trip to Silver Pine Lake, it sounded perfect. A quiet spot deep in the Western Ghats, surrounded by thick pine forest. With a small island at the center you could canoe too. The lake wasn't on Google Maps. Ravi found it on some local trekking forum, a post that was deleted shortly after he bookmarked it. We should have taken that as a bad sign, but none of us were superstitious. We reached late afternoon. The lake looked beautiful still, dark and shimmering under the orange sky. But the locals in the nearby village stared at us as we passed through. One of them, a frail old woman, said in Marathi, "The island doesn't forgive. Don't sleep there." We laughed it off. Urban legends, right? By 6 p.m., we'd canoed across to the island, set up 2 tents under a crooked pine tree, and lit a fire. It felt disconnected from the world, quiet in a way that felt too silent. The kind where even your own breathing sounds loud. That night, as we sat by the fire drinking, Natasha suddenly stopped mid-sentence and stared into the woods behind us. "You heard that?" she whispered. We didn't, but she swore she heard. A voice, a child's voice, crying. We all stood still, trying to listen. Nothing, just the breeze and the occasional snap of wood in the fire. Zoya suggested we check, but Ravi laughed and said, "Ghost baby in the woods. Classic horror movie bait. I'm staying here." We all stayed by the fire that night, but hours later, I woke up to wet breathing right outside the tent. I held my breath, thinking it was some animal, then something dragged a finger slowly across the tent wall, from top to bottom. I didn't unzip. I didn't move. Eventually, it stopped. I barely slept a minute. The next morning, we found wet footprints outside the tents. Barefoot. Human. Small. Zoya laughed nervously and accused Natasha of pranking us. But Natasha looked pale. She hadn't left her tent. We tried to shake it off and went swimming later that day. The lake was freezing, but clear. I remember diving down and spotting something shiny at the bottom, a kind of old, rusted chain. I reached for it, but a sudden pressure built in my ears. Atea surfaced, gasping. Later that evening, Natasha began coughing violently. When we checked on her, she said her throat burned. Atea, she hadn't even gone in the water. Atea opened her water bottle. It smelled foul, rotten, metallic. That's when I noticed the lake was changing. The water was darker, almost black. The reflections were off. When I looked at my reflection, it didn't copy me exactly. It smiled when I did and single quotes. Ravi was the first to crack. He said he saw someone on the far side of the island last night. A figure in the trees, watching. When we looked, there was no one, but there were more footprints. And now they circled the tents. That night, I awoke to Zoya's scream. She was gone from her tent. We ran into the woods, calling her name, but the forest was too thick. No moon. The air felt heavy, like it pushed against our lungs. Then we found her, kneeling by the shore, eyes open, unmoving, staring across the lake. Her fingernails were torn, blood on her hands. When I touched her, she whispered, "It came from under it once more," and then she passed out cold. We should have left then. The canoe was gone, vanished from the shore. Ravi tried to swim to the mainland, desperate. He made it maybe 40 feet before we heard him scream, high-pitched, animalistic. We saw him pulled under so fast, the water barely rippled. He never came back up. We dragged Zoya to a tent and locked ourselves in. We could hear something walking around outside, circling again and again, and then it spoke, not in words, but in wet gasps and croaking sounds. It was imitating Ravi's scream, over and over. Around 3 a.m., Natasha started convulsing, froth at her lips, blood leaking from her ears. Then, she stopped moving. Her face was frozen in a look of pure terror. I watched from the tent window. As something climbed up from the lake onto the shore, it looked like a woman, hair long and clinging to her body. Her skin was bloated and blue-black. Her eyes were hollow sockets dripping lake water. She dragged the rusted chain I had seen earlier in the water behind her like a tail, and she smiled at me, my reflection smile. I ran. I don't remember how I made it off the island. I woke up in the village, scratched and soaked, found by 2 fishermen. I was the only one left. They said people go missing every few years at Silver Pine. The lake always gives one back. It's been 3 weeks. Every time I look into watery, see her, standing behind me, the bloated woman, the smile, and last night, I heard wet breathing again, inside my house. My name is Karen, and I swear I'm not crazy. This happened just 2 months ago. I had been going through burnout years of working in digital marketing, long hours, 0 vacation. So when an old school friend, Unkit, invited me to go camping at a remote lake in Uttarakhand, I jumped at the chance. Just me, him, and his cousin Piyush. The lake was called Mira Lake, a quiet place nestled between pine ridges. It wasn't listed on tourist maps. Apparently it had been closed off for a while due to landslides, but Unkit found a newer route through a YouTube vlogger who posted the coordinates. The video was deleted days later. We drove out there on a Friday morning. No phone signal, no other campers, just us and the lake. And yes, it was beautiful. Still, black water that reflected the sky perfectly. Hence the name. But it was too perfect, you know. Even when we skipped rocks, The ripples seemed to vanish too fast, like the water was swallowing them whole. We pitched our tents near the far side of the lake, where there were strange stacked stones like crude shrines. I thought it was a tribal ritual site, but Unkit said, local superstition. It's probably just rock balancing. I wish we'd listened to that superstition. That night, we sat by the fire, drinking, talking about old crushes and stupid hostile fights. Around midnight, I wandered over to the lake with my flashlight to pee. It's when I noticed something wrong. My reflection wasn't copying me. I moved left. It stayed still. Spill. Nothing. Then, slowly, the reflection tilted its head and smiled. I ran back to the others, heart punching my ribs, told them what happened. Piyush laughed nervously. Chet just said, I was tired, paranoid. You city guys always think too much. I kept the zipper half open, watching the lake. Around 3 a.m., something brushed against my tent. A finger, then nails. Scratch, 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 asterisk. I woke up to screaming. Piyush's tent had collapsed. We rushed out and found him thrashing like he was having a seizure. Sleeping bag was soaked, but not with sweat, with lake water. He kept shouting. It was inside. The reflection, it moved inside. Unkit and I calmed him down, wrapped him in dry clothes, and built a bigger fire. But none of us slept that night. At sunrise, we packed up, but our car was gone. Not stolen, just ... gone. No tire marks, no drag trail. It was like the forest took it. We hiked to higher ground to check for signal. Nothing, not even a bird. It was dead silent, except for the occasional faint splash from the lake. But every time we looked, it was still. That night, Piyush refused to go near his tent, so we all agreed to sleep together in one. That's when we heard the other zipper open. Unkit's tent, the one beside ours. We peered through the mesh screen and saw a figure crawling out, slowly. But it wasn't any of us. It was pale, wet. Its skin hung loose, had no eyes, just black holes, and it was dragging something behind it. Our car keys. It walked to the edge of the lake and just melted into the water without a splash. We unzipped the tent and ran to check Ankit's tent. No one was inside. Not even Unkit. Only his clothes, dry, folded neatly, and a note written in mud on the inside of the tent wall. One stays, one sinks, one returns. Asterisk. I don't know how long we wandered the forest after that. Hours, days, maybe. Stopped talking altogether. Kate, his eyes looked empty, like he was still seeing the thing from the lake. Eventually we stumbled onto a broken forest road and were picked up by some woodcutters. I tried to explain what happened, but they didn't believe me. Not until I showed them the photo. Before we lost the car, I had taken a selfie by the lake with the boys. In it, you can clearly see the three of us, and a fourth figure standing on the water in the background. Even the woodcutters refused to take us back to Mirror Lake. They said the place was cursed, that people who go there either disappear or come back wrong. Piyush was hospitalized. He doesn't speak, just scratches at his arms like something's under his skin. He won't go near mirrors anymore. Me. I got out. Physically, at least. But sometimes, in the bathroom mirror, I see something standing behind me. Not a person, a shape, my reflection, smiling too wide. 3 went in, 1 stayed, 1 sank, 1 returned, and I don't think I'm the one that came back. Asterisk. You ever hear an echo answer back differently than how you said it? I didn't believe in any of this crap, ghosts, curses, haunted woods. I was the rational one in our group. That's probably why I'm the only one still alive. It was March 2024 when we went. Me, Ion, my girlfriend Sneha, and our friends Mihul and Ria, four of us, drove out to Echo Lake in Himachal. It's not a tourist spot, barely known. Mihul found it through some rewelding blog that said the lake had healing solitude and silence. Sounded like what we needed. When we reached, it was the perfect. Still water, pine trees all around. No other people. A floating mist hovered over the lake even in daylight. No sounds, not birds, not bugs, no signal either, but we expected that. We set up camp near the southern edge. It's close enough to the water that we could hear the soft waves at night. Mihul brought his portable speaker and played lo-fi beats while we unpacked. First, but then, that night by the fire, Ria asked, "Anyone else notice how your voice echoes here?" She said when she called out toward the lake earlier, she heard her voice come back, but not exactly the same. Attended on a different word. We laughed, thought she was high, Teta, but she insisted. So Mihul the clown got up and shouted, "Hello?" The lake echoed back a moment later. Lou, new. We froze. He tried again. "Who's out there?" The echo returned. There, care. Sneha said it was probably just the wind warping the sound. But the way the mist thickened near the center of the lake, tunes, I don't know. Something felt wrong that night. As we lay in the tent, I heard splashing. Then a woman's voice whispered softly, directly behind the tent wall, "Ion, come see." Only Sneha and I were in the tent. She was asleep. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just lay there, cold, sweat soaking through my shirt until the sun came up. The next morning, Atil was gone. His shoes were still by the tent. Phone inside, half-eaten energy bar on the table. We searched the forest, the shoreline, shouted ourselves hoarse. When we looked out at the lake, there were footprints in the mud, leading into the water. None coming out. Ria broke down crying. Sneha called out for him again and again, her voice getting raspier each time. The lake echoed her back. Mahol, dead. We packed to leave, but the trail we came in on, gone. I swear to God, that just wasn't there. Trees had shifted. It was like the forest closed behind us. That night, the fog rolled in heavier. We barely saw 10 feet ahead. The campfire wouldn't stay lit. Ria began mumbling to herself, saying she kept hearing Mehul's voice in the water, begging, saying he was cold. Then, just before midnight, Sneha screamed. We ran out of our tent. And there she was, standing at the edge of the lake, frozen, staring into it like it was whispering to her. Ria and I pulled her back, but she fought us, eyes glazed. She kept saying, she says, "Where next?" We asked who. She just pointed to the lake, and I saw it then, a girl, waist deep in the water, wearing torn clothes, head tilted at an impossible angle, black holes for eyes, just watching us. Then she sank straight down like something yanked her from below. We tried building a signal fire, but nothing worked. The trees around us now looked warped, darker, like they were decaying. Ria didn't sleep. She sat near the lake all night, repeating, "She's calling. Mahol's waiting." By dawn, she was gone too. It's been 2 weeks. I made it out. I don't know how. I woke up alone that last morning. Fog, gone. Camp, abandoned. I followed a trail I swear wasn't there before and stumbled into a ranger station a few kilometers away. They didn't believe me at first, but when they checked the campsite they found nothing. No tents, no shoes, no ash, drag marks near the lake, and 3 names carved into a tree trunk. Hool, Rhea, Sneha. That tree wasn't there when we set up. I tried to return. I had to, but the forest changed. The roads that led there aren't on any map. The ranger station said the lake doesn't appear on satellite images. No one believes it exists, but I know it does. I haven't slept more than an hour since. Danny. Water near me showers, sinks, puddles, ripples when I walk by, and when I turn away, I swear I hear her voice behind me. Ion, come back. It's your turn to echo. I never thought a stupid weekend trip would leave me afraid of Stillwater. It was June 2024, when we planned it just a weekend getaway from the city. Me, Ritvik, my girlfriend Ashi, and 2 friends Dev and Kabir. We were in Haimakal for a wedding, and Kabir, the wilderness junkie, found this supposedly untouched lake called Blackwater. No trails, no tourist buzz. It didn't even show on Google Maps properly. Just a blue dot if you zoomed far enough. Locals in the nearby village called it Kali Gil, Taze, but they refused to talk about it. When we asked why, one guy muttered in Hindi, "It doesn't like people." We thought he meant leeches or wild animals. We parked 2 kilometers away and hiked through thick forest. When we reached it, it was hauntingly beautiful. Pitch black water, absolutely still. Not a single bird or ripple. Like a glass eye in the middle of the forest. We set up camp right along the shore. Kabir insisted on a late swim. Ashi and I stayed back. I watched them splash and shout across the lake, laughing. Their voices echoed strangely like a split-second delay, but heavier, almost wet sounding dot. When they came out, Kabir said, "You know what's weird? It's warm. The lake's warm in the middle, but cold around the edges." That night, things went off at around 2 a.m. I woke up to this sound like someone dragging something wet across leaves. At first I thought it was Kabir being drunk and stupid. But when I unzipped the tent, there was no one outside. Then I saw a single bare footprint, wet and small. Like a child's dot, it led toward the lake. I turned to call Ashi, but she was sitting up inside the tent, staring at me. I'll never forget what she whispered. "There's someone standing in the water." The next morning, Kabir was gone. His shoes were still there. Phone, bag, all untouched. We thought he wandered off to pee and got lost, but there were no prints. Going into the woods, it's just one trail of wet grass leading again to the lake. Dev dove in to search. He swam around for 20 minutes, calling his name, diving under, coming up, cursing, attain, but nothing. I was about to call the cops when I noticed Ashi just staring at the lake again, not blinking. Her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. I shook her. She flinched like she'd just woken up. She said, "I heard him, Kabir, under the water." I asked what she meant. "I heard him," she whispered, calling me, asking for help. I didn't believe it until Dev came out of the water shaking and pale. He said, "I touched something down there. It felt like skin." We tried to leave right after, but the GPS glitched. It kept circling us back toward the lake, even when we turned completely around. The forest paths began to shift. Fallen trees we hadn't seen before blocked trails, while new ones appeared. That night, Ashi started muttering in her sleep. "It's deep. It's dark. It's looking up. Dev and I sat by the fire, afraid to sleep. That's when we saw movement. In the water, not ripples. Footsteps, like something walking across the lake floor toward us, just under the surface. Then Dev stood up. His face went blank. He walked to the water and whispered. He says, "It's better down there." I grabbed him, held him back. The footsteps stopped, just short of shore. The water rippled once, then stilled again. I don't remember sleeping. I just remember waking up alone. Dev and Ashi were gone. Both tents collapsed. No footprints, no gear. Just a soaked trail leading once again to the lake. I screamed their names for what felt like hours. No one answered, except the lake did. It echoed my scream back in Ashi's voice. I ran, blindly, through the forest, cutting through brush, ignoring the GPS. Eventually, I found a road and flagged down a truck. The driver said I looked like something that climbed out of a grave. I believe him. They searched for days, sent divers. No bodies were recovered, no belongings except my phone. It washed up on the lake shore 2 days later, even though I had it in my pocket when I ran. It had a single photo in the gallery I don't remember taking. It was me, asleep in the tent, and someone standing behind the flap. A dripping wet child, eyes completely black, smiling. Since then, every time I hear running water, I get chills. Every time I look at a lake, I see things that shouldn't be there. But what's worse is when I sleep, because now I dream of their voices, calling from beneath, begging me to come back, saying, "There's room for one more."